Fashion is everywhere, even in the business world. As people go to the mall and see clothes in the stores, they don't think about how those clothes got on the rack, and that is where a fashion merchandise buyer comes in. Without these individuals, there would not be a wide variety of clothing in the stores. Not only is it important for a fashion merchandise buyer to have knowledge of the latest trends and styles, but business skills and market techniques are critically important. A fashion merchandise buyer is a person with extreme fashion and business sense to buy clothes for a boutique, department store, and high-end clothing stores. To be a well-rounded fashion merchandise buyer, one should have an education in management or retail business, along with different kinds of fashion classes such as fashion merchandising and history of fashion. Although it is not always required to have a full 4-year education, a lot of employers would like to hire someone with at least a 2-year associate's degree. To obtain a higher fashion merchandise buyer position, one should obtain a bachelor's degree in business with also fashion-based classes. To obtain even a higher position, a master's degree is needed. Even if a job does not pay, it is important to get as much fashion merchandise buying experience as possible to show future employees on resumes. It is important as someone who is interested in being a fashion merchandise buyer to take an internship that is available. As with any job, the more work experience, the more likely the job is granted. Working in retail stores is a great way to gain experience in the fashion industry. Working in retail will allow the prospective fashion merchandise buyer to see all aspects of the buying process. It will also help them see what type of clothing is around, what patterns mix, and what consumers are purchasing and are interested in. Along with good fashion sense and good taste in clothing, it is key for a fashion merchandise buyer to be well organized, have great personable skills, and be able to work in a fast-paced environment. It is also important that they know the latest fabrics, buying patterns, and a good understanding of how much money an item is being purchased for. It is very important that the fashion merchandise buyer communicates clearly on what is wanted and needed. Fashion merchandise buyers want to make sure to purchase unique items that other stores do not have. If they purchase things similar to another store, nothing sets their store from being different. It is important for stores to have a variety of items to fit everyone's personal style and fashion sense. There should always be something for everyone, and that is something a buyer has to keep in mind when purchasing merchandise. Fashion merchandise buyers have many responsibilities and duties to uphold. As fashion merchandise buyers gain experience, their income increases. Employees with under 5 years' experience receive salaries between $41,000 and $71,000 yearly. If a fashion merchandise buyer has around 5 to 9 years of work experience, their yearly income is anywhere within $56,000 to $84,000 yearly. Even more experienced buyers with 10 to 19 years of experience receive up to $89,000. Even the lowest income for fashion merchandise buyers is very reasonable and above the average salary. Every job for a fashion merchandise buyer has a different pay, but is usually determined on where the location of the job is. A fashion merchandise buyer that lives in a big city will generally have a higher salary than a buyer in a smaller city. A lot of fashion merchandise buyers want to live in big cities for the extra money, but along with more money comes more responsibilities and longer hours. Working in a small city will lessen some of the stress and duties a fashion merchandise buyer might have, but also means a decrease in salary earnings. Being a fashion merchandise buyer has many other perks. A buyer gets to be the first to see the styles that are fresh off the line from designers. Like most other jobs, they also have the security of a 401k along with paid holidays, vacation time, and stock options. Another benefit that is very important in today's society is the benefit of healthcare and retirement. In this economy, it is very hard for people to find a job, let alone one that they enjoy. Jobs for fashion merchandise buyers are steadily increasing despite a decrease in the past few years. The number of jobs for a fashion merchandise buyer in 2010 was 487,200. By 2020, they are expecting a 7% increase in this job market, which is slower than average, making the employment exchange 31,700 in 2020. As any other occupation, it is very competitive. People looking to go into fashion merchandise buying should consider an internship to have the upper hand against other applicants for a position in the area of work. It is also important to have as much education, training, and work experience as possible to ensure that the applicant obtains the job. Overall, a fashion merchandise buyer is an occupation that can be fast-paced yet fun. Someone who loves fashion and is a people person would love this occupation. It is not for everyone, but it is a wonderful and enjoyable occupation for those who have great taste, love fashion, and love to shop.